Welcome to the Release Your Blocks podcast. I am your host, Victoria Bond. I am a spiritual empowerment coach. I help teach others to show up to their potency so they can fulfill their mission here on earth. I'm so glad you are here. And if you are interested in becoming a medium, if you're interested in becoming a life coach, or if you're interested in shifting your life from the 3D to live more in the 5D reality, then check me out, book a clarity call, and let's get chatting. So Melissa Love is like a soul branding expert. So she'll be able to introduce herself. She's just had a recent change in her name. So I'm not 100% sure, but I know her essence of what she does because she actually was coached by the same coach as me for a while. So we're actually in the same group, which was really cool. And then in that group, we were like, oh my God, we're like so both super intuitive. We both like are mediums and we do all these different things. And they were very similar, but we both have a business aspect of it where we wanted to both bring our spiritual alignment and our business, because our job is to get you guys out there as light workers. It's kind of a part of both of our missions. And yeah, I instantly had a connection with Melissa. I was like, whoa, you're like me. So I actually reached out to her. That was like probably a year and a half ago, I think, Melissa. So yeah, it was a little while ago. So I reached out to Melissa and I said, hey, can you come and do a session for my practitioners? Because we are all about the spiritual woo-woo, the energy, the practical, the mindset, and of course, that practical action steps for business. Because we can have all the energy that we want, and we know that 80% is mindset and kind of spiritual alignment, but we need that 20%. So people go, whoa, your branding is the shiz. And, I'm sure Melissa's going to go into some of the reasons why it's kind of important to have good branding. So yeah, welcome, Melissa. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, no, I've been on the recent journey of merging my two worlds, pretty much.
Yeah, and I remember seeing you do that. So that's when I reached out a few weeks ago, and I was like, so I remember you doing this and this and this and this. How'd you go? And you're like, yeah, wow, I'm soulful branding now. I think is it soulful branding?
Creating brand magic.
Okay, so
is my tagline. Same.
Yeah. Creating brand
soulfully
magic.
Aligned branding.
Essentially, her job is to work with entrepreneurs to get their branding right.
It is pretty much what I do. I don't stick to a set structure. I'm very much about tuning in and feeling what your business needs. So there's a mix between what the tech and the strategy side of things come into it, but then also what core beliefs and essence of you come into it as well. I'm sort of, yes, there's certain colors for certain things, but I'm also open to going outside the square of that, depending on a person and their individual needs and what they need to attract their soul vibe or clients to them. Because it needs to be aligned to you in order for your clients to come into you. So I've sort of switched in that a lot of people, yes, you need to have an aspect of, it's not always necessarily what you like, but it's also needs to align with you and what you are and what you represent, regardless of whether you're a this or you're a that, whatever industry. Like, most industries you see social media and those sort of outlets are blue. But if that doesn't match your vibe, it's still not going to pull in the right people. So it needs to draw in the people to you. So I'm not set in this is for this and this is for this.
Right. Can we talk a little bit about colors? I know that with colors, like colors, I've been very well. I don't know what I listen to, but I know, like red is like action, fast, and yellow is kind of like attraction, like, McDonald's and all the different colors and stuff like that. So
and
how do
blues and greens are calming, and your purples and those darker colors are seen as majestic and affluent, and that's your typical spiritual color is purple. So it's more those royal sort of things. And then black is sort of elegant, but it can also have the reverse. But I'm not sort of one to stick a label on what color. Like recently, I had a branding session with somebody, which I do quite intuitively. I pull out my archetype cards and I pull out different tarot cards and I'll pull out to work out where you sit. So one lady is a Facebook group manager, and I work very intuitively, and all I kept getting was red poppies everywhere. And I'm like, there's something about this. I said, yes, you're a social media manager or a Facebook group manager, but that doesn't mean that you need to be in those stereotypical colors or look, because at the end of the day, you want to draw in your ideal client, not everyone. And I was sort of feeling the oranges and those earthy green colors. And she said that she's very connected to those sorts of colors. And also that poppies actually had a very significant personal thing for her. So there's ways of mixing that in depending on what you are looking for. I think you always need to have some sort of personal element in your branding, because that ties your energy to it, as well as other aspects that also will then help draw in your ideal client, if that makes sense.
And I love what you said about black before as well, because I do for my practitioners, a lot of them are doing their own graphics. So of course, their next step would be hiring a branding consultant like you. And I know, for me as well, really I have a big team around me that works on this, and I'm constantly shifting and moving it to find that perfect branding. But I'm a different person to who I was 6 months ago. Like, I'm totally different. So the photo shoot I just had, it looks totally different. It's a lot more spiritual rather than boss babe. So it's kind of different energy. So bringing in those different elements is huge. But with the black can be quite harsh. So I've actually said, to my ladies, I'm like, hey, you guys, like, if you have bold black amongst your graphics, sometimes it's a little bit like, whoa, it's kind of quite strong. So I suppose you can play with the fonts to like soften it out and play with different things like that.
I would not say use black as a core color, because it is very strong, unless you're going to have some sort of bright color to make things pop. Because with any sort of imagery, you want to keep it clean and simple, but you also want to have an eye drawing spot. So the reason you don't want to have, keep a lot of white, what I call white space around, so that people's eyes aren't drawn to too many different areas. You want them to go straight to one point, and sticking. Biggest thing with graphics and design is, even if you can't get your branding done yet, take the time to sit down and work out your colors and your fonts and maybe the types of images you're looking for. They don't have to be the same colors, but you'll find that your images will have a same sort of vibe to them as you sort of go throughout, rather than getting on to, say, something like Canva and going down a graphic rabbit hole. Have your colors there and you know what fonts you're using. Then you're not going to go, oh, look, shiny, pretty. Oh, that's a nice font. That's a pretty color. Oh, I'll just try this and I'll use this.
That is me. That's why I get someone else to do
it. You end up posting on social media a whole lot of, they could be beautiful graphics, but they all turn out so different that people don't end up knowing who you are.
Yeah,
because they're not consistent. So you need to have that consistency in how your images look. You're better off having just something very plain to begin with, even if it's not elaborate. That's the same, that you go, all right, set yourself up a template, a quote template in Canva, and use that one template for all your quotes.
Yeah. And that's what I teach these guys. It's like, having that template and adding things in. And because what I used to do was exactly that. I was like, I don't want to be boring. My worst nightmare is to be boring towards someone, like for someone, especially, as a person. So everything I did was different. And I'm talking about a few years ago. and no one could recognize me. And it wasn't until someone said, look, 3 colors, 3 fonts. My actual copywriter was the first person who told me that. And then, of course, Donna, who was our coach, she went into that type of branding as well. So that's what I say is like, I like 3 colors, 3 fonts typically, and I do branch away. I don't like boxes, so I don't stick into boxes.
No, you don't need to be boxed in, but it's about keeping it consistent most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw Leah having a little giggle.
Yeah, she's done it.
Because it is me as a graphic designer. I mean, hello, I get distracted by pretty things all the time. Don't take me into Office Works or any of those places, So I've been there and done that. I know exactly, because you go, oh, that's really nice. But it's sort of like, all right, sit back. Does that fit my brand? Does that represent me? And you'll find a style. Like that's one of the things in that guide I mentioned. Do yourself a mood board.
Yeah.
Play around with ideas just to get that feeling.
Because what you think you might want, actually, once you do the research, it's like building a house or putting your clothes together. You buy clothes online and then you put them on and go, damn, that doesn't look good. And it's like, what is the essence of you? And I recently, we did a training on the disc with the different personality profiles and stuff. And I know you've been through that, Melissa, as well. And I'm pretty sure you have. But anyway, with Donna, parts of it with the different personalities and things. I'm very dominant. So when I'm turning up as, parts of me, but not ideally what I am, then it's giving an illusion of who I really am. When I'm all soft and like, hi, I'm Victoria, people have a session with me and they get really taken back and go, whoa, you're pretty intense. I'm like, oh, didn't you know I fucking swear? Like, because it's about showing like I'm just me and unapologetically, which means online I have to show that I am this kind of kick-ass person who doesn't mind swearing, who shows up to be who I am. And it can be quite intimidating when I'm showing up as this energy that I'm not. It can be intimidating for other people. So that was a pretty big thing in my branding as well.
Yeah, so I think that's the thing. You need to have the energy, because there's no point you, for instance, for yourself, drawing in clients that are meek and quiet and things like that, unless they're willing to shift. So your branding doesn't want to be that way.
Exactly.
I mean, my branding is quite spiritual now, but I've got all sorts of elements that I basically created my logo based on me and what I wanted to, because I'm my own ideal client.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Going into that as well, because a lot of the people that work with me, the practitioners, they've done 10 modalities. They're highly gifted, highly intelligent, highly trained entrepreneurs, practitioners, coaches. And, some of them do kind of go, well, I've got a few different niches. I'm working with, A, B, and C. And what am I supposed to, how am I supposed to do this branding? Where do I begin? So you say a mood board, but going right back to the basics, what are some of those key elements that you'd recommend, like with the fonts and the colors, if they wanted to actually get started?
For fonts and colors is, well, in that brand guide, I've got a thing, and it's a pretty, I mean, at the end of the day, there's so much to branding. You need to know who your clients are. Who they're serving, what you're offering, all of those things. And then you need to build those words of, well, what does my business stand for? What are the core values of my business? The words that encompass what it is, your brand. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I have a list of questions there to say, well, if your brand was a food, what would it be? If your brand was a car, what would it be? Just to make you think outside the square. One of I put a post up about it somewhere. And one of the things I said is as a food, is a Kinder Surprise, is what I put down my brand as one of my foods would be a Kinder Surprise, because it's sweet and delectable, but it's holding a sacred space for something that's magical inside. And you don't know what that is until you open it. So it just gives you different ways to think about your brand. So that's what I mean by feel. The more you get clear on those little bits and pieces, then you can think about your fonts and your colors. I mean, start by making a list of all the colors that you like and looking at the fonts that you like and narrow them down. First thing I would say is try and keep it a readable font. You can have fancy fonts, but you need to have a combination. You don't want to have any of your copy in fancy fonts. So typically you want three different fonts, your main font, a subheading type font, and an everyday copy font are your main ones. And your logo fonts may not necessarily be some of those fonts. They may not necessarily be in your logo.
Yeah, because it gets busy, eh? Like I noticed I used to be that busy person who'd like tons of emojis, and I don't want to be boring, so that fear of being boring again. So I just like, and I remember one of my coaches, Ayrton, saying to me, like one of my beta posts, like a sales post basically, with a call to action, and he goes, I'm just so distracted looking at this, I can't even read the words. So I make sure I had to put the spaces and I made it cleaner. And one thing I've noticed as well is some people get the app where they can have the fancy fonts within their posts, and I love that idea because you can actually do that. I don't even know what app it is. I haven't chosen
Not
it.
sure what app. So I predominantly use Canva.
Yeah, well, this is like different. This is something that you can have on Facebook, so you can actually do fancy fonts within the posts. But I have never done that because I know I get too busy, and I, being dyslexic, mildly dyslexic, I can't look at busy. I can't read busy. So I've actually had to coach people with my one-to-one clients and say, hey, look, I love what you're doing. It's so damn pretty, but I don't know what you're saying because you've got 5 different fonts within the one post, and it just gets complicated. It takes away the actual message, where there's nothing better than getting an email or reading a post that is so basic, so simplistic, and has such a strong message as well. And I think that you kind of want your branding to have that as well.
I think any copy, the main copy on any post needs to be a really easy readable font, like an Open Sans or an Avenir or any of those sorts of, depending on what you are drawn to and what you like. There's one that's called Glacial Indifference that I use a lot. You need your main copy to be readable. If you want a heading, that can be fancy, but your main copy needs to be readable. Because if people can't read it, either there's some doozy design things, like some of the fonts that people use, when you read them, the words don't really quite look like the actual word, if that makes sense. Like they can be misinterpreted if people are trying to read through things quickly, because a lot of people now just scroll really quickly when they're looking at social media. So if your writing's not clear, they're not going to stop and read it, or they might misread something if it's in one of those really fancy cursive fonts. It does happen. Some words that, if you're not careful with and you're running writing, can be definitely misinterpreted.
At least people will stop and go, what? Some
This
attention is good attention. So one thing I wanted to ask you, since we're, graphic designer in our hands right now, is I know a lot of what I'm bringing into my practitioner group at the moment, or what is coming, is actually creating lead magnets. Now, I have done a lot. I just get my virtual assistant, so I do a lot of outsourcing. But I get my virtual assistant to create things. I've had graphic designers to create things where I do PDFs. So I'm in the process of putting together another PDF myself, and it's going to be a spiritual one, a mediumship one. So what are your tips on, like, the beautiful PDF you gave us now? What are your tips? Because, all of everybody that's working with me now are kind of ready to go, right, it's lead magnet time. Let's get some emails. Let's get some people interested to know what we're all about. So yeah, I'd love to hear about.
My lead magnet was completely created in Canva. So if you can set yourselves up templates. Same thing goes with that, is keeping it simple and having your different steps. I actually have, talking about that, I have a module on setting up a lead magnet and different questions that you can ask yourself, which goes through what's your client's biggest pain points, what do they need to know, and then it gives you the points for you to be able to go A, B, C, D. Here's your 5 tips to da 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 da. Just a short 1-pager. The other thing with, I mean, this isn't design, but thinking about stuff which you would have discussed as well, is about things that are going to be of value that people are going to want to download. Like one of my, and I still have it, is one on smudging and energy clearing, like smudging your workspace. Think different ways. So, but from a design point, it's the same thing, keeping it clear, systematic. You can always use a diagram if you wanted to, just a simple infographic if you need that sort of help. But I would just have it step by step by step by step with your colors, your fonts, and your branding, so that it keeps it all aligned once you've chosen those colors. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that's good. I just know from a graphic design point of view as well, like how it looks like. One thing that I've noticed, as I always say to my VA when she goes to make me PDFs for any of my programs, is she'll put like a picture of me on there. I like putting a lot of pictures of myself on there because then people instantly recognize it. So that is really easy for me. And I have photo shoots all the time. But she'll put the picture on. It's so saturated with color. I know if anyone doesn't have, the flash kind of high ink kind of printer, it's going to use all of their stuff. So I always go, turn it down. And I love that on Canva is you can turn down that saturation. So
yeah, you can change down the transparency as well. Yes, yeah, so you do need to have the information about yourself on there. My one doesn't. I'm in the middle of reworking mine myself. So it was part of a module for my business builder toolbox thing that I was doing. So you're having that sort of information, but I think you need to keep it simple. You still don't, because at the end of the day, a short, sharp 1-pager downloadable, which is probably what you want to start with, you don't want it to be overwhelming visually. You're better off to have it less is more, especially when you begin, because you want your information to do the talking.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I noticed is, it was only 5 years ago, I didn't know what the chakra system was because I was brought up religious. So why would I know what the chakra system is? Now, I've done Reiki, I do all of that type of stuff. It's quite a big thing in my life. But for me to do a PDF saying, this is what the chakra system is, A, B, C, D, and basically say, this is how to align your chakras, for instance, I would think, oh God, that is so damn basic. No one's going to want that. But the truth is, the PDF that we want to create for the lead magnet to give to people as a little freebie, which definitely is a full hook, line, and sinker for some people. They're like, whoa.
It's just that first step.
Yeah. And I mean, they're not going to know these things, or they're going to say, that's a great reminder. I just wanted that. So I think sometimes as coaches and practitioners, we want to show them something amazing, but we do go into overloading and giving them too much and chunking them out. So going so basic, even if they do know the stuff, it's a great little reminder. So that's what I keep reminding myself.
And dumbing it right down, pretty much.
Yeah, because I didn't know what their chakra system was.
I've done it when I was trying to do my little course that I was doing. I'm like, I feel like I'm surely these tiny teensy little tidbits that I'm, breaking it down to, every little tiny step, breaking it down by down. And they're like, it's fantastic because we need to know that little tiny bit by bit by bit. So you don't want to give them a whole system in one go. You just want to sort of, if you wanted to, you could do, like you're saying with your chakras, you could do a mini downloadable series rather than in bite-sized chunks, rather than giving them one big document all in one go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have been a person that has done a lot of chunking people out over the years. I'm not going to lie, because I'm like, I know something. I'm going to share it all with you right now because I want to tell you every single tiny little thing. And they're just like, whoa, stop.
And
So
I do that myself. I've done it in that brand guide. Like, I know that that's my current freebie, and I know I need to chunk it down.
Yeah.
Because there's so much value in it. It's basically taking you from A to Z of this is what you need to do already, as well as it is a bit of a shortcut for me, because then people have already filled out or looked at that document before they come to me.
Yeah, clever, Melissa, clever.
So there's a bit of both.
Yeah, awesome. So what else? What are some of the things? Like, I know you do things, and this is why I really want to talk to you as well. I'm bringing in this group is, I do believe the spiritual connection and the energetic, spiritual and the practical are all a part of it. So, would you recommend people, if they were going to start doing their own branding before they got a branding expert like yourself, to meditate on this type of stuff?
Tune in and just sort of see what comes through. Pull cards. That's what I have done. I've got these cards, color cards, but you can find similar things online.
Chakra cards, similar. I've got the inner chakra ones, the inner seagulls.
Yeah, so these are the language of color ones. Pull yourself, if whatever oracle cards you've got. If you've got tarot, use the major arcana. Chuck out the rest, because some of them aren't that usable. But the major arcana, bar, I think it's the Hangman, Death, and there's something else. I'm just looking at my cheat sheet because I've just been learning about tarot, are all archetypes. Delve into some of the archetypes around what your business is. That will give you a sense of what your brand should look like. So if you pull yourself the Magician, or you pull yourself, whether it's the other one I've got is the Caroline Miss archetype cards, pulling those and go, oh, does that archetype sit with me? Is that part of, so all of that. So, some of your stuff that you were talking about the, what are the other ones that you were talking about? The, not archetypes, how you dominant, all of those things as well. Like, that comes into it.
Well, there's the birds, like there's all the different types of personality. I know Tara something about the birds. Like, if you're a bird, what bird would you be? And so I'm really into
those elements that you can bring in and sit with that. And then, like the Magician. Okay, so if I'm a magician and I feel that, what would that look like? And you can do that through meditation and just tuning in and asking questions and asking for signs. And just being open to listening.
Yeah, exactly. What are your signs? And not thinking
it's silly. Don't go, and dismiss something. Write it down. Walk away and come back to it later. I mean, that's one of the learnings. Like when I've been on branding calls where I do the clarity calls, and I'll be like, this is going to sound really strange, but like the one with the poppies. I'm like, I'm getting poppies. Why am I feeling like your branding needs to have some sort of element of poppies in it somewhere?
So you're kind of reading them at the same. And I think this is a great training, actually, in the fact that whether you're a graphic designer, whether you're into nutrition, whether you're a practitioner or a life coach, whatever you are, like whatever you're doing, whatever your niche is, we do read people. Like we really do. We read people intuitively. But just because we don't say, because I've obviously got Magnificent Mediumship, which is one of my signature programs, and it's hilarious because it's like, I don't care what you do for a job, Magnificent Mediumship will help you read everything in life, because we are these intuitive beings, and we kind of go into our heads sometimes. So I love that you're bringing this into branding and making that a thing. Like, I know for me, mermaids are really big, and shells and beaches and feathers are huge, and butterflies. But they're all very feminine flow, and I'm quite strong in my message. So it's actually having those things. Balance. Yeah, it's softening. So I'm strong within my colors and stuff, and my name, like Halo Healing, because like it's kind of a, not a heavy name, but it's kind of a strong name, really. Victoria Bond, like that's kind of a strong name, really, if you think about it. And then so bringing in feathers and dandelions and stuff like that just softens that stuff as well.
So but you can also find ways of or elements that have that soft aspect, but are also strong in nature. So if you look at like your butterflies, for instance, it's a life cycle, but look at where they start and what they have to go through to become that. So it's a matter of thinking outside the square. So that's where I'm a bit different to a degree, using letters with your logos, looking at ways that you can incorporate a symbol, like another branding that I'm doing for somebody at the moment. She's actually like, she goes, I swear my grandmother is working through you. Yes, those colors are perfect. Yes, this is this. And she's setting up her own psychic medium, to be a reader. And hers is called Dorothy Grace, I think. So, and it's based on her grandmother. And all I kept getting was old world, that sort of feel. And I've said not like as in old world, but classic mix of, even though she was advanced for her time, it's still that old world feel. So that real, I got the purple, but I also got the greens, those real grounded energy, nurturing, but then playing with the elements. And that was the same thing. I said, is there a thing about butterflies? Is there a thing about, she goes, yes, butterflies, birds, that sort of thing, or dragonflies. And I went, and then play on that. So you can use that. So for instance, I've created a symbol that makes the butterfly for the D and the G, making just that, the outline. So it's thinking outside the square and seeing how it relates to you.
Yeah, that is so cool. I think it's just kind of, sitting with it, allowing it to kind of land. And one thing I've noticed as well is I had quite strong greens and purples, because clearly I like strong colors and I wanted to be bold. But then I realized as I'm changing and stuff, that I sometimes want it to be softer, not just bold, because I don't want to be in people's faces. There's different, facets of me as well. So what I just did is I actually turned down the color. So I use exactly the same color, but just turn it down so it's softer.
Yeah, so you can do different, I suggest sort of up to 5 colors. You have your 2 primary colors, and then you have complementary or your secondary colors. So your 2 primary brand colors, and then you sort of have a branch off from that, whether it's different tones of those colors. Usually sort of 5, but you can have more if they're within that color palette. I wouldn't go 5 completely different complement, unless your brand's rainbow.
Yeah, I was just saying a rainbow when you said that. I was like, yeah, they're a rainbow, and sometimes that's okay. Like
I use rainbow aspects in my branding from time to time, because it's part of who I am, because I like to have that real mystical sort of look, because I want to draw those people in. So there's no point having something that's, being a graphic designer, people go, okay, graphic design, but the main way for me to set myself apart is by having that real focus on very whimsical, very sort of space, so that I do draw in those clients, because my clients are coaches, healers, and holistic health people.
Not going to get the blue collar who's going, hey, I'm a lawyer. Exactly. Can you do this? You'd be like, sure. Do you want to add some angel wings in there?
That's right. You wouldn't say that. I can do that work, but it's not something I enjoy.
One thing I also notice as well, this may help people, is when we're on Instagram, when you're following like a entrepreneur and you look at their Instagram and you kind of like swipe, you're swiping and you're stalking them basically to see what they have to offer, you'll notice that there's a really cool pattern in there, and you'll notice that the branding all looks similar but can change around a little bit. And so what I did was I went through all my branding, and I went through literally and not critically, but I looked at mine and went, okay, cool. Is this kind of matching? Is this looking good? What is going on here? And I went, you know what? It's not. And it's not looking like these other ones that are quite professional. I don't want to look like anybody else. But I do notice that these $1 million coaches have kind of got a little bit of consistency within if you're scrolling. So I was like, oh, I really love that. So I just sent a couple of screenshots to my VA and said, I want things to flow. So when people come to go, who is Victoria Bond and what is she about? And they're going through my Instagram, checking it out, because that's what everybody does, that it actually flows. And I've noticed in the last few months, it looks so much better because, of course, I've got the template here and then a post here. I'm taking out some of the photos and putting in my new type of energy of my photos, because I had like long dark hair, then I went to pink hair, now I'm blonde. It was, all the different things, and I like being that kind of energy of different energy, but I want people to recognize me for where I'm at. So how do we, just like Aaliyah said, like she changes her branding, and she's a manager in the human design. So she doesn't want to be put in a box and stay in a box for too long. So how do you kind of work with that energy of someone who likes to play with a few different boxes and transform a bit?
I think if you've got the core essence of your brand really is never going to change.
Right. Mm-hmm.
What your business stands for and how you want people to feel, or the words that associate with that, it's never going to change. Your core is always going to be there. You always go. I mean, I've rebranded myself numerous times. Like the branding on that is my old branding, but you can bring in elements. So even if you want to rebrand, you got to remember to bring in elements from the old that still, because you find that the core essence is doesn't change. So there's always going to be elements from whatever you're using brand wise. Mm-hmm. That's the same. Like that branding has a cat on it. My new branding also has a cat on it, but it looks completely different. It's got the same cat, just zhuzhed up a bit and changed color. So I've still kept those elements and brought them across. So now my branding's predominantly gold, and it's using more of the blues, whereas that's pink and purple. So I've changed my color. I've even changed my entire logo. But and you play around with things as you go along. What works, what doesn't hit.
Don't be scared of playing, really.
No, you need to play, because each version that you put out, is it going to attract, or is further along to attract the people that you want to attract?
Do you test? Because I know I'm always talking about testing different posts to see, how much engagement you get. Do you test with any type of photos or pictures or branding?
I just play around. I don't specifically test. I just sort of play with
make it fun.
You've got to make it fun, because that energy goes into your work.
I'm getting all excited just thinking about my brand right now. I'm like
that's
mermaids and mystical
and have fun, but and keep it on brand.
Yeah. I love what you said about adding things in. Like I've just started adding a little bit of golden, because I'm not really purple and green anymore. I want to change a little bit. Still a bit of purple.
Transition it over.
Yeah, transition. So I've been adding a little bit of golden, a little bit more starry stuff. And I know Tara, who's on this call, she's rebranding. A lot of these guys are rebranding because they're actually going, what is this core essence of my business that I'm having? And we've got mediums in here, we've got coaches, we've got practitioners, we've got all sorts of juicy kind of niches going on. And it's like, how does this feel? And playing with it constantly, going, what do you guys think as well? So
and you do need to play around with it to get it right, and then you'll find you'll stick with it for a while, and then you up level and you feel like you need to change it. The amount of times I've changed my branding, it probably doesn't help that, and it is much harder doing your own. I've decided, and that's okay to upgrade and evolve, because with each revision, I suppose you're getting clearer on who you're serving.
Exactly.
And each time
we pivot all the time.
As spiritual
entrepreneurs, we pivot, and you can't help it, because you go, I love that so much, I'm going to do that again. Oh, that turned into this. That was good. Oh, this has happened over here. And then you're like, whoa, my branding from 3 years. I was Mum's Time to Shine 3 years ago. I was teaching mums how to going through spiritual awakenings. And even my one-to-one client the other day, he said to me, whoa, you've changed a lot in a year, the way you coach. I'm like, have I? because we don't see it.
No.
So it's so interesting. And
You
I think,
evolve.
yeah,
But
I think
the
also,
one
yeah.
thing is you realize is that your core of your brand's never going to change.
It
That
might
core essence is never
intensify
going
though,
to change.
because I know there's a lot of spiritual people out there, me included. So my niche is people are a little bit scared of coming out of who they truly are because
Just
of
owning it.
exactly.
And it's not until you truly own it that people are actually going to be drawn, your ideal people are going to be drawn into your world.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until I really owned what I did, which is not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking, I've rebranded myself in the last little bit. And it wasn't until I really owned who I was and went, nah, I don't want to work with these other people. It's not my thing. And embraced who I really was. I mean, I was doing VA work myself as well as doing the branding stuff. So I've really just stepped into that space of branding only.
Mm-hmm.
And not being scared to put out those sparkly, whimsical images because it's who I am.
Yeah, and sometimes we don't want to
It's
seem like we're too woo-woo, don't we? And I know
yeah.
that's a lot of people that work with me, including myself. It's like my husband said to me recently, I love him so much, but I do light language. And I did light language on my spirit. I've got a few smiles up there in the little faces. And I did it on my spiritually aligned group. And I was like, sorry, guys, it's just, I've done it in this group as well. I just done light language, just come through. And it's only really just landed where I'm feeling okay owning that to public. Like it was more like just doing it in my paid groups. And now I'm actually doing it everywhere. My husband goes, I think you might have just scared people away because a couple of people cancelled out of my spiritually aligned group. And I said, I don't think so. Like, and if I scared them away with that, then they're not ready for that. And that's okay. And I'd much rather having aligned people. So owning that was big for me because talking in a different language, like, I mean, it seems crazy in this reality, like talking in tongues, like people are like, what the hell are you doing? Yeah, it's so good. But owning that, sometimes owning that core essence of who we are is the hardest thing to do because if someone disses us or puts us down for that particular thing, we know it's going to hurt the most. So it's so, bringing your mystical stuff in for a graphic designer, like that is kind of big because you're like, graphic designers don't typically have all of what you're offering, and that's what makes you different. So I love it.
Yeah. So I think it is. It's, and that's why you do evolve with your branding. The more you step into who you are, and not afraid to be who you are, it's going to change. And your niche changes because you are drawing in those ideal clients through your visuals. And that's what it is. I mean, I work from a perspective of your branding in some ways is a form of code. That's the way I look at it. And it's the way I look at it more so now. I mean, I look at my branding and it's got all the different elements. It's got the four elements. It's got earth, air, fire, water, the triangles. It's got, all sorts of different things in there. And my cat or a cat in the middle. So in essence, it's like a symbol. And I found the more I've embraced it and I've rebranded and it's something that sits really good with me, then I'm calling in my soul clients.
Oh, that's beautiful. I want to congratulate you for that. I really want to just take a moment to acknowledge that because Melissa, that is fantastic. Well done.
Stepping into who I am.
Yeah. And we're going to keep doing that, aren't we? So why would our branding stay the same for 10 years?
That's right.
When we're in the digital world?
Change.
And one thing I was just thinking, actually, this kind of just channeled through, I was thinking, I've got a lot of people that are super intuitive. Everyone that works with me is intuitive. I can't lie, they are. And I was thinking, how cool would it be to actually sit in a meditation? Like if someone was going to work with you, right? And if they downloaded their own symbol, like their light code, and then said, hey, Melissa, this is my light. Would you do something like that? Where you go through, obviously, all the branding steps. And then if someone was saying to you, like a branding call, and they said, this is actually my channel, like you said, the triangles and stuff. Imagine if someone had like a light code and they wanted that to be in their branding.
Yeah, and if somebody did light language symbology. Like they're all unique. I mean, you look at people who have had the tattoos done of the different.
Victoria Prinny, she does that in Australia.
So, if there's something that really resonates, why not use a part of something like that? That's a powerful symbol that anchors you to the work that you do in your branding. It's bringing elements of you. It's aligning, to me, your brand is aligning you, your business, and your clients so that you're all aligned, so that you're drawing in the people that you want to work with.
Oh, this is so damn exciting. I just want you to do my branding right now. Can I rebrand right now?
You can rebrand. So that's what it's about. It's aligning the core soul essence of you, what your business represents, and then who your clients are, because that's what it is. You are your business. Your business and you are not separate. Yes, they might, whether you're a coach, whether you're a healer, whether you're have a shop, or you are a door-to-door salesperson, your business and then your personality need to align. If they're not aligning, whether or not you're a salesperson, you can be a salesperson, but unless your energy, your brand essence aligns with what your business is and you personally, there's always going to be a mismatch.
Yeah.
Because what you're putting out energetically, so what you're putting out energetically and what you're putting out visually is not a match. No matter how much, you like, all social media is blue, or I'm in marketing, so I'm going to use the blues, and that's a stereotypical marketing. Trust. That's what it is. Marketing, sales is also another one that's sort of bluish. Then you've got your greens that people say, oh, it's health-based, it's this base, it's that base. I need to use green because that's what associates. Yes, there is those connotations, but if it doesn't align with you energetically and you're putting all this material out in those colors, same as your writing. I've learned, yes, you need to have a structure to your writing, sure, but don't overthink the structure. It's the same thing. If you're going, okay, this is what it is, if this is you, blah, 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 and you're overthinking it and you're thinking, yes, you've got to have strategy. But if you're overthinking it and you're writing it and then you're putting it out and you get crickets, it's because it's not energetically aligned. You're better off
an hour doing a post and then no one read it.
Writing something, regardless of whether it's strategic or not, until you get a feel. And then
so interesting. And I find I've been sending out a few emails lately, and it was real hard for me because being dyslexic, sitting down doing structured emails, worst nightmare. It is not a Victoria thing. I'm just can I push play and talk? And so what I did is I just got Otter, and after which is something I'll do after this, right? Like if I was going to do a podcast, I'll just talk into it, boom, edit it. There's my show notes, because I want it to look like how I talk. So the ones where I'm just riffing into my Otter, and then I go through and obviously have to edit it because words come out wrong and stuff, send that off to my tech team. They put it out there, and I'm getting tons of people going, oh my God, that resonated with me. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. But when I was trying to do the emails and be clever and fit into the structure, I know I need to talk about their pain points because obviously I want to help them. I know that I've got a story that can help them. So obviously I'm going to talk about that. And then I'm going to give them tips and tricks on how to do it. So that's the only way I do it, because otherwise I get chunked out, I get overwhelmed, I give up. And if I do make it through that email for a whole hour, no one says anything. And then I get gutted. So I've learned that I'm here to do it. And if the energy is not aligned, like I slept for 2.5 hours today and I went and had a bath before because I've had a big weekend. So I want to come back to me. I can't do content today. So same with branding. I wouldn't go in and go, what do I want my branding to be like? I'd be like, bath and nap, feel good and nice and smelling good. Now I look at my branding. So I think being in the energy and preparing yourself is huge.
That's right. So I think being aligned and because if you're not feeling it and you're putting it out there just because this is what you've been told to do, it will never land.
So learn the structure and then break the rules. And that's what I do. And that's what I've done with when Donna taught us as well. And then I obviously teach how to do engagement posts, statement posts, value posts, all those different things, and the fonts and the colors. And I go, wow, if you want 5 colors, do 5 colors. If you want 2, do 2. This is what I did. And then I went and broke my own rules. So here's a structure, now make it your own.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Structure of the house and make it pretty. Maybe it's going to be a bit woo-woo for some, or maybe I'm going to be too direct for some. Maybe I'm going to fucking swear and some people aren't going to like it, whatever. But it's really important for everybody to go, okay, this is me. And that means I'm not hiding in a group. I'm not hiding anywhere. And that was a bit like you, Melissa. You had to go, okay, I'm doing this. Now I've got to step up and step out. Whoa. Yeah. And like, I've done the same. It's a little bit scary, but it's so important to own it. So it says, don't back down, stand up for what you believe is right. And I just see that energy as she's just literally, she's just owning it. So I love the colors.
Standing in her power.
Yeah. And that's what actually branding is all about. Not what you think people want to see from you, what you want to show, trusting that people will drop off. Someone dropped off for me last week.
How do you want them to feel?
Yeah, exactly. And it like someone dropped off and said, I've decided not to have a call with you. And I went, okay, no worries. Thank you. And I felt so expansive and grateful that I didn't waste my time and she didn't go through a call because it wasn't singing in her soul. So I even felt grateful for that. So I think we have to take the yeses and the celebrations and then celebrate the no's as well, because every person, I did a post calling all light workers, the other day. It was actually an email and 10 people unsubscribed. And I said, good. I'm so grateful that they unsubscribed, because I want the people that are in my in my area, in my group, all my clients, to be like hell yeses, like soul clients. I don't want people who are just like, oh, she's getting a bit too woo-woo here. I want them to go, hell yes, bring on the woo-woo. So it's kind of like, and that's scary. That really is scary to actually go, it's okay that people drop off. It is okay that people unsubscribe. It is okay. There's nothing wrong with it, because for every person that drops off, 10 more come with that right branding, with that right copy, with that essence,
Yeah, correct.
Mm-hmm. So I just see if there's any more questions or anything like that. No. So no one seems to have any questions. So that is thank you for that guidebook. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for taking your time out to share with us. And if anybody, where can people find you if they want to
just look me up on Facebook. I can send through the links to you if you want.
Yeah. So what is your name?
Just friend me, or it's just Melissa Love.
Okay,
all
cool.
of my socials are Melissa Love.
Another clever little tip there, guys. Use
so
your name.
I think it's Melissa Love Creative, or my page. That's my Instagram. Mm-hmm. But I think my business page is just Melissa Love, and so is my personal profile. So you can connect on me on either of those. So,
and just for me as well, because I want to know this. If you were going to do a branding session with somebody, what would that look like? So I know that is it like an hour? Is it working?
Yeah, I have an hour branding clarity session, which basically I don't sort of lock into anything. One thing I sort of said, originally, let's get your fonts, colors, but it may not be that. It just depends what comes up and what area you want to look at first. And we just try and get as much done as I can that we can get through in an hour.
Yeah, because a lot of my clients have got their colors, they've got their fonts, they've kind of done the basic stuff, and they're playing around. So it's kind of, I suppose you could be offering going into the deeper levels with that if they're already
so maybe how they need to show up, that sort of stuff, using cards.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different ways that you can do it. As I said, it's personal depending on each person.
And then you put something together as well. So you put together graphics and
in that hour,
but that's what the whole point is. So
it gives you an idea of, you might want to sit down with somebody and brainstorm going through in Canva. What sort of images do you think will work? Let's get an idea of the feel.
Mm-hmm.
So you can sort of tailor that hour to however you're wanting it to look, really, whether it's the way, the feel that you want to get for your images, to getting clear on what things should look like, to how you show up,
do you like
how
cover
your
photos
clients
and
think
stuff
you
like
need
that
to
as
show
well?
up, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, perfect. Love it. Alrighty, well, we're going to let you go now. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
It's been amazing. So grateful that we finally
Welcome.
got around to doing this. It's been on the cards for a little while now. The cards, get it? Have a beautiful, beautiful evening, everybody. And yeah, we will catch you later. And that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much for joining the Release Your Blocks podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love to hear from you. So please leave a review and tell me what your favorite takeaway from today was. There is so much more from where this came from. You can also find me at Holistic Energy Shifting on Facebook, where you can find more content, more coaching, and more guidance. Have a grand and glorious day, and I'll see you next time.